Hi, I'm Damien, this is Enneagram Life, and today I want to talk about how I dealt with and how I'm dealing with a overbearing and obnoxious Enneagram Type 3. So, essentially, basically, he is always interrupting me and others, cutting in on me and others, talking over me and others. And so this is why he's overbearing, and one of the ways in which he's very obnoxious. So it's very difficult to deal with this person. He's a work colleague, and I realized this about him incredibly fast. I could tell what it was motivated by, which it commonly is motivated by this, which is that he essentially has no interest in anybody else and has a desperate need for attention, and he uses people as an audience, and he speaks at them. He doesn't speak to them or with them. He doesn't speak with them. He speaks at them or over them. And it's a very obnoxious person. It's very hot here. Anyway, just gotta wipe the sweat off occasionally. But anyway, so yeah, this is what he's like, and realizing this and having to work closely with this guy, the basic strategy that I've used is, one, to avoid him when I can, as much as I can, and two, not to encourage him. So when we are speaking, normally he's speaking at everyone else, me or anyone else, not to encourage him. So you don't want to that he's just going to go on and on, right? And he's going to repeat the same stuff, even though you've heard it a million times. But if you repeat anything, like the slightest thing, he'll jump down your throat immediately and just be like, yes, I know that. Yes, you said that. Yes, you told me, something like that. So, yeah. So, one, like I said, was to avoid him, and two is not to encourage him. So when you are having a conversation with this guy, you got to be aware that, okay, I can't say anything that he's gonna, or I've got to try and minimize what I say that he can use to talk more. Because if he is interested, he has no interest in anyone else. But if he is interested in, the only way he's interested in other people is, well, one, for their stats that he can use to judge them, right? Like how much they make, that sort of stuff. Those sort of saucy stats, he's interested in that. Saucy was a term I heard a guy use to mean just extra flavor, extra tasty stats that, people want to get out of others to judge them and measure them and that sort of info. So there's that sort of info that he's interested in, the saucy stats, and also he's interested in, if he runs out of topics to say, he'll hear other people talking, and if he thinks he can use that topic that they're talking about to get more attention for himself, to give his opinion about that, he'll just jump into that conversation, cover everyone's mouth, and just use that as a jumping point to begin expressing himself. That's how he behaves in conversation. So yeah, he's totally not interested in anybody except to get the saucy stats, which really is about himself again, right? So he can measure himself against other people, compare himself to other people. And he's interested in using other people's conversation topics as a launching pad for him to talk more about himself and express himself. and to give himself another opportunity to use people as an audience. So this is what he's doing, and it's incredibly obnoxious. And yeah, avoiding him, like I said, as well as not encouraging him. Like, be careful what you say around him, because, or how you respond to what he says, because you might encourage him to say more. And he's always talking way too much. And he's talking often about things that aren't related to anything that a reasonable person would think was relevant to anyone he's talking to. But if you try and say something along the lines, you know, if you try and say anything to shut him down, he'll just speak over you. He'll just raise his voice and go, ah, or something like that. You know, he might even touch you to make you as an indicator of, hey, you shut up, I'm speaking now. And so, you know, he's doing all those sort of things that a lot of people would see as very aggressive. And, you know, it's all just part of that obnoxious behavior. You know, it's very standard. You see people like this often. And so, even though, like, I've been doing those two things, you know, not encouraging him and avoiding him as my general sort of strategy for dealing with this guy, the specific instances that come up and I have to create a strategy to deal with those specific instances. So, for example, one of his obnoxious behaviors recently has been to, by recently I mean, you know, I've only met him recently too. I've only known him for a short period of time, like a month or so. And so one of the things he's been doing is he's been getting me to come to his desk. So we work in the same office, right? And so our desks are probably around like 2 meters apart. But he's been getting me to bring stuff to his desk, which he should be coming to my desk to get. So it's usually something like, he's complaining he's got something between his teeth, and I offer him a toothpick. And then he'll gesture and telling me to bring it over or something like that. And so I go to his desk to bring it to him, which I have done things like that since it was the beginning of a relationship and I was trying to be a nice guy. And I did realize, because I knew, of course, this is an obnoxious personality type, very narcissistic personality type. And I knew that he was that type of person, right? And so when he was asking me to bring things to his desk, like, I knew what he was doing. It was just more obnoxious behavior. And I'm not saying all threes are obnoxious narcissists. I'm just saying, but in threes in negative places can definitely be obnoxious narcissists. And anyways, so yeah, he was getting me to come to his desk, which I was fine with like a few times, but I was very aware that, hey, we got to make sure we got to keep an eye on this. And then I reached a point where I realized, okay, I can't do this anymore, because in colloquial terms, I ain't his bitch, right? And that's a lot of what it's about when he's trying to get you to come over. It's a form of just obnoxious behavior, which, if you kept doing, would signify that you were a doormat, basically. You can't be a doormat to these people. In fact, you have to resist these people for their own benefit and your benefit. Like, this is diseased behavior, and it hasn't done him any good in life. He's told me his life story many times, the same story, and you know, you can see in that it's been this behavior of his has been a massive impediment to him throughout his life. And so you're not doing him any good or yourself any good by allowing this guy to walk over you, and so you have to stop that. And so I realized at one point, hey, I can't ever go to this guy's desk anymore. And that, unless of course it was something like he was offering me the toothpick, of course, then I would go there and pick it up. Because obviously, socially, I'm in debt to him. He's given me this toothpick. And you know, I don't want these things to seem like, they could seem petty when we're talking about, you know, going to someone's desk 2 meters away and giving them a toothpick. But when you put that into perspective with all the other things he does, and every conversation he has, every time he speaks, basically, is an obnoxious behavior. And so when you add that to the fact that he's making you come to his desk all the time, it's no longer a petty small thing. Anyway, so and especially seeing the case too that he's not an authority of any kind. Not that that sort of behavior is necessarily acceptable. Like if an authority's being an obnoxious prick too, you don't. It's not something that you want to encourage at all. Anyway, so just coming to that real decision. Hey, just realizing, hey, I can't go to this guy's desk. I'm not taking stuff to his desk again. Oh, that is a very important step towards dealing with that obnoxious behavior, that overbearing behavior. Obviously, like I said, when it's inappropriate to go to his desk, sometimes it might be appropriate, like if he was giving me something, but when he's inappropriately trying to get me to come to his desk, I'm not doing that anymore. So I made that decision. Making that decision is very important because it's a decision, hey, I'm not going to be a doormat to this guy. I'm not going to do this thing that implies that I'm a doormat to him. And so just deciding to do that is very strong. But also really importantly, it's how you do it. And it's really important to do it non-aggressively and to believe that you can do it non-aggressively. Because a lot of people in a situation like this, they might be afraid of confrontation. They might be afraid that they're not going to look polite, they know he's oversensitive and he'll blow up about things. And they might be afraid that, if they don't take something to him when he asks for it, he'll chuck a spaz, and they don't want to be involved in a situation like that. And so, because of their panic that it might go bad, right? Like he might chuck a spack, he might become really aggressive, and then their worry about that sort of shuts down a lot of people's thinking, and they start to feel like, oh, I can't not go to his desk because he'll overreact, which is totally the wrong way to behave. So you've got to realize that and believe that, hey, I can not go to his desk, and there's a very good chance that that's going to be fine because I have the skills and to do it non-aggressively. And I believe in myself that there's a good chance that this is going to work out. Even though I'm not going to be going to his desk, I'm not going to cause some horrible aggressive situation in the workforce. I'm not going to create an animosity. I'm actually going to create something positive out of this. If you believe in that, and so I believe in that, and that's another part of how I'm dealing with it. The fact that I decide not to go to his desk, and I believe that it can be done non-aggressively and positively, possibly. I'm also aware that maybe it will become aggressive. Maybe it will create animosity. That's true too. But I strongly believe it's very likely that it won't, that I'll be able to not go to his desk, and I'm not going to create some sort of dramatic animosity, aggressive situation. So I really believe in that, and that's another part of it. And so I role played how it might work out, right? Like what might actually happen, and I created a plan. And importantly, you don't want to learn one of these role plays word by word. It's not about that. It's about the feeling, and the feeling is just refusing to do the thing you don't want to do, but not being aggressive. That's the feeling. And so I imagined, he might be like, I might be looking some information up on my phone for him, right? And then that he's interested in. I'm not saying I'm doing it for him like some sort of a slave, but I might, for some reason, have it on my phone that he's interested in. It's my information now because I've found it and he's interested in it. And so I might say to him, because I'm still trying to get along with people, I have to work with these people, I'm still trying to be nice. I might say to him, hey, I found this info about blah. You might be really interested in it. He sits back here, so I'm looking back at him. You might be really interested in it. And he might say something like, oh, really? Bring it over. So he's asking me to come to his desk, even though I've got the thing to help him. And so then I'll say something along the lines of, no, just come over here, have a look. Maybe raise my phone up like that. And so I've said, with that tone, everything is not aggressive. didn't have to learn those exact words off by heart. It's just reflecting that feeling. It's just like, nah, come over here, have a look. But let's imagine he doubles down, right? And then he's like, no, I'll bring it over. And he might be starting to get aggressive, right? A little bit, like he might be amping it up. And then I might respond with something along the lines of, I'm still trying not to be aggressive. I might respond lines of like, nah, just have a look. And then so I've just refused again, non-aggressively. And so he might triple down, right? Because he might be really, really, really obnoxious, which he is. You know, but you always got to imagine a worst case scenario. And if you feel you have a plan to deal with the worst case scenario, it's going to give you confidence, right? So let's imagine he triples down and he's like, no, come show me. So he says something like that. And then I'll say something along the lines of, shouldn't you come over here if you want to see it? I'll say something like that. So imagine I'm looking back kind of. I'll just be like, shouldn't you come over here if you want to see it? Because I'm not making a big deal, right? I'm not being like, hey. Like I could make that a statement, but it's just a question, right? It could be like, you should come over here if you want to see it. I'm not making a statement like that because that's harder. I'm taking a less aggressive route. I'm like, shouldn't you come over here if you want to see it? And now at this point, it's escalated to a certain extent where it's pretty obvious that I'm not coming to his desk. And if he wants to continue it, he's going to start looking like a nut job beyond this. You know, you've got to have a concept of what's realistic here. And if he really is that bad that he's going to he's going to make himself look like a nutcase, well, for one, that can work for me in that he looks like a nutcase to everyone in the office. And who knows, maybe people will fire him because of that. But anyway, so at that point, like I've pretty much taken it as far as I can take it without us entering into that sphere where he's either going to look like a nutcase, or my next step is going to have to be sort of, I'm getting close to where I'm going to have to be aggressive. Because, you know, I'm not delusional. I'm not saying I'm absolutely not going to be aggressive. No, I'm just taking as many steps as I can towards being aggressive without being aggressive. So I'm trying everything I can to make it work out without being aggressive as we move towards being aggressive. Because if someone is, worst case scenario, that determined to be obnoxious, it might become aggressive. I'm not afraid of that because I know that, and you know, people around me have seen that I've been a chilled guy, I've been relaxed, and anyway, so he then might say something again along the lines of, no, bring it here. Let's say he's like really, now he's stepped into that world. Now he's aggressive. And then I'll probably just do something like, nah, or something like that, right? Which is still not aggressive, but it's very clear that there isn't much room for me now left where I can't be aggressive. Because I've said that, you know, that non-syllabic, not many syllable word, non-syllabic word, nah. This is a kind of you know, you see people who are about to fight, they start talking in non-syllabic ways. You know, it's come to a point where it's still not aggressive, right? Just going nah is not aggressive, but there's not much else you can do. Like that's really just saying no. But because it's just casual still, it's still not aggressive. So I'm just like, nah, that's it. Like there's really not much, I'm aware, there's really not much else to go from here without something weird going down. And so at that point, if he did choose to take it to the aggressive land, I'm not saying I would be aggressive. I'm saying I'm prepared to be aggressive. But the point is that my plan has these steps, right? I have this plan of how I'm going to do it with these steps that might solve the problem, and they have a good chance of solving the problem. And so because I have this plan of how I'm going to deal with these worst case scenarios, they might not be the very worst case scenario. They're the steps towards the worst case scenario. You know, they're worse and worse case. Like the more he's determined not to come over and to try and make me come over, the worse the scenario it gets. And so I can do a worst case scenario, or a bad scenario here, and as the scenario gets worse, I can deal with it. I can deal with it without being aggressive. I can deal with it without being aggressive. Until the very point where, of course, there's a point where it has to be aggressive. But the point is that I have all these tools to handle as it gets worse and worse. And yes, it might reach that point where it's absolutely aggressive, and I might have to be aggressive. That's sure. But the fact is, the fact that I know that there's a lot of things I can do to stop it before it gets aggressive. And so I've got all these tools to try, right? I've got all these possibilities, and that gives me confidence. And I still have that determination that I'm not going to go to his desk. And I have all these tools to handle his obnoxiousness if he takes it that way. So that just knowing I have them really helps. Yeah, and so that was my plan. And just as a quick summary, it was pretty basic, really. I was just like, no. He asked me to come to his desk, and I'm just like, no, you come over here. I lift my phone up. He asked me to come to his desk again, and I'm just like, nah, come over. Just a more casual way of saying that. He tries again. He asked me to come to his desk. I'm just like, I'll put the question out, shouldn't you come over? Rather than you should come over. Shouldn't you come over? And then the last one's a nah. So it's really just 4 steps. But I don't have it in my head as 4 steps, right? Because you don't want to be in this situation thinking, oh, I got 4 steps to follow and these 4 exact sentences to say. No, this is all feeling based, right? You got to do it from a feeling standpoint. Just awareness that, hey, I'm going to say things that are non-aggressive, that are moving towards saying more obviously no. Yeah. So that is my plan for dealing with this specific situation of him trying to get me to come to his desk. And this week, I thought of that plan last week when I realized, okay, we're at a point now where I can't go to this guy's desk anymore. And last week, I thought of that. And then this week, he actually was sitting at his desk and he wanted to show me something on his phone. And so I was sitting there at my desk and he was like, look at this. And he's just there on his phone like this. And I, at that point, was actually turned towards him because there was him and another guy here. He was behind me and there was another guy here. And so I was sort of turned this way towards him and the other guy. And he was like, look at this. And he was just looking at his phone. And it was clear that, like, he was kind of expecting me to get up and walk over to him and look at his phone. And I thought to myself, hey, this is the thing I said I wasn't going to do. He's trying to get me to come over there, but I said I wasn't going to do that. And the fact that thought came into my mind, it just reflected in my face where I was like, hey, he's trying to get me to come over here. And I said I'm not going to do that. And he read that on my face. I could see he read that on my face. And so he then turned his phone over and put his hand out so I could see it as he read that on my face. So the point is, that worked well. And it was just because I had the confidence and the determination I wasn't going to do that. That solved that problem when he tried to get me to come to his desk that time. So I didn't even need to use those tools. But just having that resolution, I'm not going to his desk anymore, put that expression on my face, which he read. Because a lot of these people, they're going to push it as far as they can, but they're still aware of, they don't want to be seen as a nut job, and they have some awareness of that and all of that sort of thing. Anyway, they might have some awareness of that and still be very obnoxious. And so he was aware enough by looking at my face, hey, this guy's not coming to my desk. Or if I push this, this guy's gonna push back. Yeah. Anyway, I hope you like that and can maybe find that useful. It's the 15th of the 6th, 2024. Thank you.